Good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever and whenever you are. My name is Benjamin, and welcome to our platform shooter part 14. In this video, I'm going to show you guys how to add a pause system. This was actually requested by one of my subscribers. It's Mr. Plep LP. He requested adding a pause menu for the game. And I just wanted to add a basic pause system in to show you guys how I would go about that in GameMaker Studio 2. Actually, real quick, I did want to mention that GameMaker is currently in a Humble Bundle. If you go to humblebundle.com and click on the game bundles, you can see there's 11 days remaining on this Humble Bundle. So you don't want to miss out on this. It's not GameMaker Studio 2. So unfortunately, it's the first GameMaker Studio. But the first GameMaker Studio is a great engine. So you can get actually the iOS module, the Android module, and the Universal Windows Platform module, which all comes with GameMaker Studio Professional for only $15. And I'm not in any way affiliated with this. Like, I'm not going to get any revenue or anything if you buy it or if you don't. None of this is going to come to me, but I just think that it's a really great deal, and I wanted to let you guys know about it. They do this, it seems like they've been doing this for the last couple of years with GameMaker Studio 1.4, and it's really a great engine. I highly recommend picking it up for the $15 price if you've got the extra cash lying around. Let's get started. Okay, so first we're going to create a new object, and I'm going to call this O_game. And I want to create a game object because we need to have an object that can exist in every single room that we're in across all of the game, and will allow certain certain functionality no matter where we are in the game. And in order to do this, we need to make this object persistent. That way, let's say we had a start menu and we have this room, and then we had another room or whatever. This game object would exist inside of all of those rooms. We only have to put it in the very first room, but it will carry over to all the other rooms without us ever putting it in those other rooms, because it will be persistent throughout the entire game. So let's add a new event. We'll add a create event, and we're going to use a user event for this, just because you might use a script for this, but since we're in the trial version of GameMaker Studio 2, we're limited on the amount of scripts we have. So I'm going to use a user event, and we'll call this user event toggle pause, and we'll set that equal to 0 because we'll use the first user event for our toggle pause. And we're also going to need a pause variable, and we'll set this equal to false. And we're going to need a pause sprite variable, and we'll set this equal to no one for now. Okay? Now, the reason we need a sprite, and I'll show you this in a second, why we need this sprite, but first let's just work on the toggle pause. So let's do our user event, so other user events, user event 0, and we'll call this toggle pause. And inside of here, we're going to say if pause. So if we're already paused, we want to unpause, else we're going to pause, right? So if we're already paused, we'll set pause equal to false. Let's reverse the order of this. So if we're not paused, and maybe I'll just add the ed on this because it just makes more sense in English. Paused equals false. Okay, so if we're not paused, we're going to set pause equal to true. And if we are paused, we're going to set paused equal to false. Okay? Now, that doesn't actually do anything other than change this variable, so we're not actually doing anything. But what we can do is there's a function inside of GameMaker that deactivates objects, and so we can deactivate all of our objects. So if we're not paused, we'll set paused equal to true, and we'll do instance deactivate all. So this will deactivate all the objects in the game, but we can pass in an argument whether or not to deactivate the game object as well, which would give us no control. We'd deactivate everything. That would be sad. So we want to say true for not me. That way the game object will stay active. This object will stay active, but all the other objects will be deactivated. Then when we unpause, we can just do instance activate all and reactivate all of the instances. So let's put this object inside of our game. I'll put it on the instances layer. Just put it up here in the corner, I guess. Run the game. Oh, actually, no need to run the game yet. So we don't actually have a way to pause. We just created this user event, but we're not actually using it, ironically. So let's add a key press event, and we're going to do escape. We'll just do the escape key. So we'll just call user event user and toggle pause. Okay, oops. I'll run the game. Okay, now we can press escape to pause the game. And you can see it works. We're able to pause the game. But everything disappears except for our background. Basically, all the objects inside of our game disappear. And that's because when an object is deactivated, it doesn't draw itself anymore. And there's no real easy way to draw the object, but what we can do is we can actually take a picture of the screen right before we pause. So remember this pause sprite right here? We can create a new sprite from a picture of the screen and then draw it. So let's try that. So we'll come into our toggle pause right here, and I'll show you how we can do this. We can say sprite or pause sprite equals get, let's see, sprite create from surface. Okay? So there's a function called sprite create from surface. Now, you might not know what surfaces are yet because this is a beginner tutorial, but a surface is just, it's kind of like a blank sheet of paper that you can draw on. So you can take that sheet of paper and draw whatever you want on it, and then draw that scaled or stretched or wherever you want in the room. Well, there's a default surface that's called the application surface, which is when we run the game, the entire game is drawn onto the application surface. So we can actually just use that because we just want a picture of the game anyways. So let's use the application surface. So for the surface ID, we'll do application surface. And then for the X, we're going to do 0. For the Y, we're going to do 0. For the width, we're going to do room width. Well, actually, we might need to do, we'll see if this works. We might need to do the display width, but we'll check this. Room height. And then remove background, we want to say false because it gives you the ability to remove, like if there's a black background, you can remove that. We don't need to do that. Smoothing, we want to say false. X origin, we're going to say 0, and Y origin, we're going to say 0. So this is going to create a new sprite. Now the problem is if we already have a sprite that we've created before, if we've paused before, this is actually going to create a memory leak because we'll create a new sprite, set it to this variable, but the old sprite will still exist. So what we need to do is make sure that we destroy the old sprite if we still have one. So you can say if sprite exists, pause sprite, sprite delete pause sprite. So if the sprite already exists, we're going to get rid of it. Now I'm getting an error here, so I've messed something up somewhere. So unfortunately, it turns out that sprite create from surface and sprite delete are not available in the trial version of GameMaker Studio 2. I was unaware of this, and that's very unfortunate, but this is actually how I'd go about doing this if I had the actual version of GameMaker. I'd delete the sprite. If there was already one there, then I'd create a new one. And then if the sprite existed in the draw event, I would draw it to the game screen. So that's how I would go about it, but we're going to have to find a workaround. I still want to try and get this to work for you guys, but we're going to have to do something a little bit different. So we won't be able to make it quite as fancy. Basically, when we pause, we'll have to maybe draw just a black background or some other kind of background that you could draw when you paused in the trial version. So I'll show you how to do that. So let's come into our draw event, and inside the draw event, this is where we're going to draw. Let's actually use the draw GUI event. Let's change the event here. Draw GUI. So we'll draw this to the GUI layer, and we'll only draw this when we're paused. So we'll say if paused. Let's draw our black background. So we'll draw rectangle, and we'll do an X position of 0, Y position of 0. Now, since we're drawing to the GUI layer, this will follow the view. So if you have a view moving around in the game, this will still work. However, if however, the width and height for this layer might be different depending on if you've set it or not. So we can't use the width and height of the room. We have to use the GUI width and height. So we'll do display GUI. Let's see. Display get GUI width. That's it. And display get GUI height for the width and height. And then for outline, we'll do false. Okay. Then in the center of the room, I actually want to draw some text that just says paused. So we'll say draw set H align FA center, draw set V align FA middle, and draw text. And then we can do display get GUI width divided by 2, and display get GUI height divided by 2. And the string we'll just put paused. Okay, so we're a little limited to what we can do, but let's try and see if we can get this working. And it's not actually running the pause script anymore. I'm not sure why. Okay, so silly me, I just forgot that I'd removed not right here. You guys probably noticed that, but that was the issue. So let's try this one more time now. And oh, we're pausing the game, but it's drawing a white background. So let's come into that. We're gonna just set draw set color. We'll set it to C black. But then when we draw the text, we actually want to set it back to white. So draw set color C white. Then run the game. Try pausing again. There we go. Paused. So we've got a pause screen. It doesn't show what we were seeing before because we couldn't do that, but that's okay. This works pretty well. Now let me show you something here real quick. See how we're calling these functions twice? There's no sense in doing that. What we want to actually do is call them once up here at the top. Var GUI width equals, and then we'll just get the width like this. Then var GUI height equals, and we'll get the height like this. And this is one of the uses of local variables, is that if you're calling a function multiple times, it can slow things down because you really only need to call it once, and then once you have the value stored, it's a lot easier to just look up the value rather than calling it again. So we can do that. Simplify this just a little bit. I feel like it's a little more readable too. And then we can run the game again and see if our pause works. There we go. Escape doesn't feel like the right key to use. I'm actually going to change it to E. Change event, key pressed, letters, and the E key. Can't be changed to an existing event. Wait, what? Oh, somehow I messed up and changed. Okay, well the E key is already there, so this should be change event, other, user events, user event 0. This is the toggle pause. Somehow I changed it to escape when I was debugging. Okay, so let's look at all the code here. And I really wish that it wouldn't go all the way over like that, but we've got the create event here where we set up the pause. We don't need the pause sprite anymore. We just set up pause, we set up the user event that we're going to use. We've got the GUI event, which just draws the pause screen, which is only a black background and the words paused because we're in the trial version, so we're a little bit limited. But you could really draw whatever background here you wanted. So, you could still make this look really good. You could have a really nice looking pause screen. Even in the trial version, you just have to draw, and it wouldn't be a background, it'd be a sprite, but you draw that sprite and draw whatever you wanted there. And then pressed E in the E pressed event, we're going to just toggle pause, call toggle pause. And then this is the toggle paused event, which just deactivates all the instances except for ourself, and then reactivates them and switches paused on and off. So there you go. Hopefully this video was helpful to you and you learned something. Thank you guys so much for watching it. And I will talk to you guys later.